Let's do it.
All right.
We're making history.
All right, all right. Here we are. Welcome, everybody. Come on in. I got a very, very, very special individual here with me today. I'm so glad that he has some time to join us here in this election season. It's a very important time for all Americans. And as we know, America impacts people around the world. So I just wanted to make sure that we put our stamp on what's going on and bring some of the issues to the people that matter on the ground. And before I go on, without further ado, let me introduce the special guest of the day. Mr. Ron Edwards is going to be representing us here for District 60. And it's just a pleasure to be with him, pleasure to support him in his campaign, and the work that he's been doing has impacted me in a special way. And I'm going to go on a little bit more, but before I do, without further ado, Mr. Ron Edwards.
James, it is a pleasure to be here with you, sir. God is doing it, really is. I have to give credit and all praise to God for the things he's doing, not only in my life, but what he's doing in your life as well. And we have some very important things that we need to accomplish, and it's going to be done by ordinary people. Really, it is. Ordinary people like yourself, like myself, are going to accomplish some extraordinary things. And I am excited for meeting you and for the work that we're going to do together.
Yes, indeed. So before we get started, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a backstory of how we got here. So I have a little bit of a history in community activism. Back when I was living in Long Beach, I joined a community group that was called the Long Beach Coalition. And it was so funny because that was around the time that they started Black Lives Matter. So I was actually on the ground floor when Black Lives Matter was recruiting different organizations around the country to bring them into the fold. So I believe something that started as a grassroots movement, as we all know, got co-opted by people who were of a different agenda, Marxists, people that were into breaking down the Black family structure, which has been something that's been an ongoing theme. Remove the father from the home, makes the family very vulnerable, and decisions are made that aren't in our best interest for the long run. So I say all that to say I have a background of being very active in the community, being concerned about the plights of the people, and I was very liberal at the time, and I didn't know it. I considered myself what they would say woke, and this was before that term woke was necessarily co-opted the way it has been now. I remember woke as being a part of the Black struggle tradition. I used to read books from Cornell West and Eric B. Dyson, Michael Dyson. And I still have some respect for these brothers and the work they do, especially someone like Cornell West. But a lot of that led me to see how much division there was even in that conscious community. And as I grew and got older, I realized that we're being used kind of as pawns, in this thing. And my views have changed radically. So I just wanted to give a little bit of a background there. So fast forward to now, I met Mr. Edwards. He's running this campaign here, representing my city, my area, my community, where I'm going to be raising my children. And his mother introduced me to him. Beautiful lady. Shout out to Mrs. Edwards. She's a light and, someone that is definitely a shining example of what the community could be when people connect and care about one another. So I don't want to be long-winded here, Ron, but I'm just so inspired and so moved by how much impact we've been able to have and taking it off the internet and into the streets, But now we're bringing it back to the internet, reporting back to the people who we care about the most. So I saw this BET Black Men Summit, right? And that's what got me inspired to call you and actually let our voices be heard, because what I was able to witness in this BET Summit was they had a great opportunity to bring both sides of the conversation to the table, and they did not do that. They failed dramatically, and I was appalled. Don't say that it's a Black Men Summit if you're only going to have one side of the equation there. And not only that, but you're going to belittle the talking points that you know exist, because there's a rising number of Black men that are no longer supporting that party, as evidence of us being here today. So I wanted us to speak on this program because there was no conservative point of views, no views that are in line with God and family and our history of, service and, just being people that are, we hold ourselves accountable to the tenements that are in the Bible, but also the ones that were founded on this great land, and today we've gotten so far away from that. Liberalism has become about censorship, giving more power to government, silencing dissent, and a lot of agendas that they call black, or they hide under minorities, but it's agendas that are against, what we really stand for. So I'm sorry, man. I had to just give people the backdrop so we can really get into this. You want to speak on it before I start playing some of these clips that we're going to respond to?
Well, yes. In general, James, the direction of the country has really changed. One thing I noticed about the general path that we're on is years ago, whether you were Democrat or Republican, at the end of the day, we knew that everybody loved America. So Democrats want to paint the street blue, Republicans want to paint the street red. So the politics is, okay, how many votes want to paint it red? How many votes want to paint it blue? That's basically what politics is. Politics is getting people to come together and vote for you to get the things done that you want done. So at the end of the day, whether you're Democrat or Republican, we knew that everybody loved America. We're at a point in American history where the Democrats do not love America. They hate America. They hate what America stands for. They want to change the dynamics of America. They want to change the institutions of America. They want to reimagine America. We got to be careful with the words of the left. The left has a lot of words that we as Americans disagree with. We're not going to win any argument if we take on the jargon, take on the words, the definitions of the side that we're opposing. One word is gender. I never use gender. I use sex. I use male and female. There's only two sexes. There could be 100, 200, 300, as many genders as you want to come up with. There's only two sexes, that's male and female, and we know God created naturally men like that, male or female. I never use the word evolution. I use the word creation. I don't use any form of the word evolution. I won't use it in my terminology, describing me, describing things, or describing any situation. It didn't evolve, it developed. I'll use creation, I'll use develop, and so on and so on. There's other words I just will not use. I will not take on the definitions, the terminology of the left. If we do, then we're really bowing down to them, and they're winning the argument. You can't win an argument if you take on the vocabulary of your opposing side. So number one, the left has turned from America. Number two, they've turned away from God. I tell people all the time, American principles are Christian principles. Christian principles are conservative principles. Those principles are in line with one another. What we see happening with the left is that they're turned away from God. They won't even say God in the Pledge of Allegiance. They'll leave it out. Like at the DNC, I think it was 2 times they left God out of the Pledge of Allegiance. We cannot afford to leave God out of the equation in our lives, in our country, in our institutions. There must be God. We're God-centered. That's one of the platforms of the Republican Party is faith. Faith in who? Faith in man, faith in country, faith in money. No, it's faith in God. And we as men must stay on that path of Americanism, Christianity, and stay with our families. Family is another thing. They want to reimagine a family, where family is one man, one woman. Not one man, 2 women, not one woman, 3 men, not a man and an animal, but it's because if you start reimagining it and you have no definition, no truth when it comes to family, then family can be anything. And so we have to stay with the principles of Americanism. Christianity is at the heart of that. The founding fathers, they talked about God. They put God on the money. In God we trust. In our Pledge of Allegiance, we know it's a republic and not a democracy. This is another word that the left uses all the time. They talk about America being a democracy. America is not a democracy. America is a republic. It's a constitutional republic. This is foundational. So if you teach the people that it's a democracy and you say it over and over again, people start believing it's a democracy. A democracy basically is majority rule. So with a constitutional republic, if you own something and the majority say, I want to take your house from you, with a constitutional republic, they can't take your house from you. But in a democracy, they could just all vote to take your house from you. So the things that belong to you, no one has a right to take what belongs to you. So a constitutional republic protects the minorities. That's exactly what it does. When you're in the minority, the majority can't take what belongs to you. We see a clear example of this when it comes to Democrats this year. Joe Biden had the delegates. He was supposed to be the candidate for the Democrat Party. So he had earned that. That was something he earned. It belonged to him. But what democracy did is the majority said, no, we're just going to take what belongs to Joe Biden and we're going to give it to Kamala Harris. She didn't earn it. She didn't work for it. But the majority said, Joe Biden, we're going to take what belongs to you and give it to Kamala Harris. In a constitutional republic, what belongs to you in the minority still belongs to you. The majority can't take it from you. So we see a clear example of what democracy really is. We're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic.
Thank you so much for setting things straight. Sometimes you do have to get back to the basics and the roots and the etymology of these words because they play word spells on us. And there's a lot of psyops out there going on and you don't realize it. And I fell into some of those too because they make you feel like, and we'll get into it actually on some of this because it's still going on. They will say things like, okay, if you don't give these people their rights, then it's a slippery slope to sliding you back into oppression, you know? So it's a lot of word semantics and word spells going on. Well, I think that's a great intro for us. All right, Ron. So we all saw former President Obama give his little diatribe where he tried to, what I would say, shame black men, you know, into voting for Kamala Harris. You guys supported me. Where's the same love for Kamala? Are you guys sexist? You know, and that type of thing. He got a lot of backlash from that because people are fed up with this nonsense and this rhetoric and the blaming. And that's why I was so appalled that BET still continued this. But before we get into the BET thing, Barack Obama went on the Pivot podcast. And I believe it's funny that it's called the Pivot Podcast because I believe he did it so he could pivot off of that bad take he had, and he wanted to soften it a little bit. So let's listen to what Barack Obama had to say on the Pivot, and then we'll respond.
I do not think that Democrats have a monopoly on wisdom. And I don't want Democrats to ever take black folks for granted. And I respect every person evaluating both sides in any election, any debate. You should get to know, what does this candidate stand for? What does that candidate stand for? You know, the truth is, historically, initially the Republican Party was the party of Abraham Lincoln and freeing the slaves. And for a long time, Democrats, their base was in the South, and the Dixiecrats, they were pro-Jim Crow. And then it flipped during the Civil Rights Movement after Lyndon Johnson signed that law for voting rights and civil rights. That changed, and a lot of the South moved into the Republican Party. So my point is that no one party you should take for granted.
So obviously you can see I'm playing that clip because I actually appreciated that Obama recognized that, yeah, black men used to support the Republican Party. That's the party that we had a lot of representation in. We're in Congress, and we didn't move over to the Democrats until we kind of got scared off, and, they used the KKK. And I had to find this out through my own research. This isn't, of course, information that's given to us in school. So we haven't always been a part of this Democratic Party and allegiant to it so strongly. And I appreciate, though, that he said, they can't take us for granted because they realize that that's what's been happening, and we're fed up of it. What are your thoughts?
Well, they kind of rewrite history. He starts out correctly with the Republican Party, Abraham Lincoln, Frederick Douglass. We know they're the party that freed the slaves. They fought a civil war in this country, so it's well documented. The Ku Klux Klan and the lineage, we know that was Democrat. Where the Democrats switch up at is they say it was a change. They say it like it was a change. No, it wasn't a change. Where they get stuck on and where they convince people that Democrats are for black people is they talk about the Civil Rights Amendment in 1964. But what people don't know is that it was a Democrat president, Lyndon Johnson, in office that took credit for the Civil Rights Amendment. But the part that people don't know is that it was the Republican Congress that voted for it. The majority of Democrats in the House voted against it. The majority of Republicans voted for it. So it just happened to be a Democrat president that was in the office. So he was the figurehead in executive office. So it looks like the Democrats was for it. Couldn't be further from the truth. It was a Republican Congress that passed that. And so Lyndon Johnson, his response or retort was, we're going to keep these niggas voting for Democrats for 200 years. So they're slick. That's what they're good at. They're good at the talk. They're good at words. They're good at the messaging. And so you can turn anything on its head with talking, with words. And so the Democrats are good with the messaging. That's what it's called, just messaging. But they would never tell you that it was a Republican Congress that passed it. The president couldn't pass that on his own. The Democrat House voted against it. The Republican House voted for it. And that's how we got it. So give Republicans credit. Don't give President Lyndon Johnson credit. Right. So nothing flipped. No, Republicans were still representing for black people, and they still are today. Right. Freedom is what we want. So that's why I'm in this race, James. That's what got me started, is freedom. One word. And we as African Americans coming through slavery in this country, we always wanted freedom. Freedom is one of the most powerful things that a man can possess. Freedom. The Democrat Party is against your freedom. They think they still own us on the Southern plantations. So they want to tell us who to vote for, what to think. They keep us in bondage. They never set us free. When we look at our communities, why our communities got to be always in shambles? Look at our jobs. Where's our jobs? Where's our infrastructure? You look at any Democrat-run city in the United States of America, and it's in shambles. And that's because it's run by Democrats, not Republicans.
Well said, brother. In the interest of time, I'm going to go through some of these clips and just let us know what's going on, because obviously I could share my opinions, but I would much rather hear yours right now. Okay. I picked the clips anyway, so they can see, where I'm headed with this, because I was just appalled by a lot of this propaganda. So we're going to get into it. This part is just kind of an intro. This gives you an idea of how the night started for BET, and I actually had high hopes because they were talking about, showing both sides and having a conversation. 100 black men. It was a strong look, the visual of it, and then it just went downhill from there. So we're going to kind of dive into it.
Tonight, we're going to explore the issues that matter to us. Now, whether you support Kamala, ride with Trump, or plan to stay home, let's have a real conversation among us, black men, about what's really at stake in this election. This is the BET Black Men Summit. Let's get to it.
See, so at this point, I'm skeptical because it's BET.
Black men, as you know.
And it's DL Hughley. But I saw that, that image right there. Let me go back to it. Look, that's a strong image right there, Sure. I love that, so I was hoping for some semblance of some balance, and yeah, they let me down, but I had my hopes. So here's DL Hughley getting it started, talking about Kamala Harris's record as a prosecutor.
Now, of course, there's been a lot of talk about VP Harris's record when she was a prosecutor in California, specifically people who said she locked up thousands of black men. And to tell you the truth, and full disclosure, I fell for that one. And I had a meeting with the vice president. She asked me to do something simple, which is to actually look at her record. And I looked, and she was, in fact, not what I imagined or professed. And I think that I felt like a lot of young black men felt. And you see these systems and these agencies just running roughshod over black men. And you can't believe that anybody who represented that agency would be any different. That's not to make an excuse. Obviously, I should have done my research. And by the way, research isn't doing things to edify your perspective. Research is about challenging what you believe.
So you can see where he says research is not about edifying your perspective, but challenging your beliefs. So again, I was hopeful that that's what was going to take place as they moved forward. So let's see if they challenge any of the beliefs or if they're just going to reinforce, or edify their position. Let's see. So the audio is a little delayed here. This is an interview that they did with people in North Carolina.
Do you think there are reasons that some black men have an aversion to supporting Kamala Harris?
A lot of misinformation. We have, the things that was done, track record in California. A lot of people ran with that.
Harris has a track record of doing certain things to black men or just the black community as a whole, but so does Donald Trump. So once again, I'm up in the air.
What misinformation have you heard as it pertains to this current election and candidates?
When it comes to Kamala Harris, they say we're not going to vote for her. But one of the reasons they say they won't vote for her is because she threw thousands of black men in jail for, marijuana cases.
How we consume information now is more so in a bite-sized way. So a lot of times you get the sensationalization of what they put out there first, and people just hold on to that and don't necessarily do the research.
Like, if you just do the research, it's far from the truth. I mean, you have a phone, you can Google it.
Do you think there are unfair judgments that black men are uneducated with their votes?
You say uneducated? I'll say to a degree, yeah, to a degree. But I would say uninterested would even be better though.
I love, I appreciate you.
All right, big thank you for that. And then you
shape this as if black men have been misinformed, need to do more research, maybe aren't interested, and maybe should just get on board because we really don't know what we're talking about. What did you take from some of that?
Well, James, this is a great topic that we need to talk about as black men. Um, I thought about this a lot. I've grown up in the black community. I've lived in Compton. I've lived in Watts. I've lived in LA. I've experienced those cities. I've grown up in those cities. I'm a black man in America. But we have some serious problems, and you're not going to solve a problem until you first understand the cause of the problem. So there's a lot of symptoms that people are working on. So when I listen to the talk in America, they're talking about symptoms. A lot of this stuff is symptoms. We got to get to the root cause of what's going on in our community. And so I'm going to address the root cause, not the symptoms. And one of the things I like to tell people is racism is not America's problem. Sin is. I'm going to say it again. Racism is not America's problem. Sin is. Sin is bad behavior. Your bad behavior, racism cannot excuse your bad behavior. That's the way I want to say it. Your bad behavior cannot be excused by racism. So when I look in the mirror as a man, as a black man, I cannot blame my mom. I cannot blame my dad. I cannot blame my sisters, and I cannot blame my brother. I have to look in the mirror, and when I have something in my eye, I get that sleep out. If I have something in my nose, if I have something in my mouth, I have something on my face. The reason I look in the mirror is so I can see myself. Until we start looking inwardly as a black community, we're not going to solve our problems because we need to see the cause of the problem and not just deal with some symptoms. The problems in the inner city, whether it be black, brown communities, are not caused by racism or legacy of slavery. Racism is used as an excuse for inexcusable behavior. We can always look to ourselves and see and find the behavior that caused the problem. It's always our personal behavior because life is about personal choices. Another saying I have is that the biggest classroom is life. The biggest classroom is not at USC, it's not at Harvard, it's not at Yale. The biggest classroom is life. And in the middle of life, there's a big if. It's conditional. So it's choices that each black man, in this case, has to make for himself. So when we see certain things going on in life, we're going to have to make a choice. So I can follow my brothers, I can follow my cousins, I can follow different men. That choice is up to me. And based on the choices that I made yesterday, I find myself in the place I am today. Every one of us is here today because we made choices. Those choices are real. Yes, when you compare the contrast of the black community, the first 100 years after slavery with the first 50 years after the welfare state, then we can start seeing the culprit.
Speak on it.
So there's a lot of things that have happened to black men, the black community, black families, but the choices that we've made have caused us to be here today. So let's talk about the family, because the reason we have problems in the black community is because we don't have family. More than other ethnicities, we're the ones destroying our families the most. So we have to take responsibility for that. When you look at slavery, even though slavery separated husbands and wives, slavery separated babies and children from parents, the family was still strong. In Reconstruction, all of the things that happened during Reconstruction, the family was strong. Even though Jim Crow existed and all of the symptoms and all the problems, the family was strong. When you consider all of the deeds of the KKK, the family was strong. Then we see Planned Parenthood come on the scene and do some things. The family was still strong. But what destroyed the black family is the welfare state. In the welfare state, we have money entering the scene, where the government comes in and wants to take care of us, give our women money, separate the men from the family, and now we see the demise of the family. The choice to take the money has destroyed the black family. Lyndon Johnson, he said, we're going to keep these niggers voting for Democrats for 200 years. So there's some other things I can talk about. We see when the black family and the man is kicked out of the home and parents don't stay, men and women don't stay together, then you see crime increase. The two-parent family is down. The divorce rate is increased. Work ethic has decreased. Personal responsibility is down. Good behavior has decreased. Discipline has decreased. Poverty has increased. Racism has increased. Drug abuse has increased. Fathers in the home have decreased. Gang violence has increased. And the murder rate has increased. All of these symptoms exist because there's no father in the home and there's no family. All of these things are symptoms.
100%. Wow, that was powerful. I don't think I need to do anything but say ashe, salute, and let's do better. You know.
Absolutely.
All right. With that said, you spoke on a few things that are actually coming up right here. They speak on abortion. Let's go straight into that because we kind of touched on it briefly with the Planned Parenthood. Yeah. And it's interesting, too, because I'll just put my 2 cents in because then I'll pass the mic to you. They use the whole, you know, my body, my choice and, you know, woman's autonomy. But they fail to neglect that these are not just decisions that are affecting the woman. It's affecting the father as well, and it's affecting the baby, you know. And I just cringe when I keep hearing my body, my choice, as if there's not another life that's involved in that decision, you know. It's very minimalistic way of looking at it, but it's the way they want to keep framing it, you know. They go as far on here to say black men should know about my body. At one time, we didn't even own our body, you know? So I'm like, come on, man, that's very sensational, you know? And it's just not, it's disingenuous, but let me play the clip and then get your 2 cents on it.
Concerns with the next generation. And I'm wondering, does reproductive rights factor into this election for you and your decision making?
Oh, definitely. I'm definitely pro-choice. I think a woman should control what happens with her body 100%.
I think the reproductive rights aspect makes the choice for who to elect very clear.
Someone coming in and say, hey, this is what you need to do with your body. Like, we have never experienced that. And I don't want them to experience that.
And we need to stay out of that. I think we also need our government to stay out of those things as well.
I don't believe in abortion. Just being honest with you, I believe we abuse the right.
Is that a big part of your decision-making this election?
For me personally, it's not high up there, right? I'm not going to say that it's not of importance. There's no disrespect to women at all, right? I come from one.
Oh, definitely affects my vote. I'm a father of 4 daughters.
You know, my choice, my body and stuff like that. And it is. I'm not going to say anything, you know, too deep into that.
Not all, with all these black women behind the camera.
You know what I'm saying? But I don't get jumped, you know what I'm saying?
When we empower and give women the right to choose in every aspect of their life, we as a society advance.
All right, we're back, man, with Kenny Burns and Vic Mensa. Kenny, man,
one more. This is a little bit more on my body, my choice.
Okay.
But Thurman's father, Andre Thurman, here with us, and he can say it affects all of us, especially black men who have daughters. In fact, DL, we have Amber Thurman's father, Andre Thurman, here with us.
So
and
this is a
he
figure
can
the
say
Kamala
how it
Harris
affects
campaign
black
has
youth
been
men more than
put into
anybody.
the forefront. He lost his daughter, so he's going to say his piece.
These laws have tremendously affected me. I lost my baby behind them. Letting her just sit there for 20 hours. That didn't do anything. Well, I can't thank Kamala for keeping her name alive.
Yes.
and doing everything that they doing for us. Thanks.
I was born in 1964. I was the first one of my mother's children born with the full rights of an American citizen. My granddaughter, who was born in Atlanta, Georgia, my second grandchild, she was born in September of last year. She was born with fewer rights than me. It should not be, there have to be things that we agree on. And we can't be a nation that yells freedom when 50% of our population doesn't even have freedom to have autonomy of their own person.
Yeah.
And as black men, it is we know what it's like to not own your body.
Yeah.
Why would we want to do that to somebody else? What I understand. What do you think,
about what Donald Trump is doing?
Okay, James, this is an interesting issue. Democrats, once again, they're very cunning and crafty how they present an issue to you. They're very cunning. That's why they win a lot of elections. And they twist things around to give you a certain perspective that will make you agree with them. When it comes to the issue of abortion, a woman never has a baby by herself. So they talk about 50% of the population. A baby has a mom and a dad. So if the woman is going to make a decision and 50% of the partnership is left out, the other partner is left out. So she's going to make this decision all by herself. When they agreed in that partnership to have a relationship, it's a partnership. That relationship is a partnership. No woman is having a baby out there someplace by herself. So they had a sexual relationship. They had a business relationship. They both agreed in this business relationship, okay? Whether it was verbal, whether it was written. So now this woman is going to make a decision all by herself in this partnership. Something's wrong with that. So no one never presents that. So you're going to leave all men out. That's what you're going to do. You're going to discriminate against all men because this woman is pregnant. And so what was produced is a baby. And so that's a human life. So two people entered into an agreement and produced something. Now, if you're in a business world and you have a partner and you both produce something, one partner in no way could leave out the other partner in making a decision what they're going to do with that product. The product is a baby. But now one partner is just going to make a decision all by themselves to just scrap it without the other person having a say. And by the same token, whether we talk about carrying the baby to term. So the woman all by herself, that one partner is going to make a decision to have the baby. That other partner, the man, might say, I want to abort the baby. So it's okay for the woman partner to say, I want to abort the baby. But then when the man partner say, I want to abort the baby, and the woman partner say, I want to have the baby and carry it to term, that man doesn't have the same rights as that woman that can have an abortion. So their arguments are flawed. Their arguments are really flawed. They talk like they're compassionate. Democrats are not compassionate. Democrats destroy everything in America. Kamala Harris and her policies have destroyed San Francisco. Her policies have destroyed Oakland. And her policies with Gavin Newsom, both of them coming out of San Francisco, their policies are destroying LA right now. They always destroy things. They kill things, they murder things. I bet Martin Luther King Jr. is rolling over in his grave right now. This doctor of theology, this preacher of righteousness, this man of God was not for this stuff. If he could see the children today, black people, the black community, he would be, I'm talking about, he is uneasy in his grave. This is not what we was raised for. Black people are murdering their own babies at a 5-time greater clip than any other ethnicity in the United States. 5 times greater. 5 times. Think about that. Let that sink in. So you're blaming white people or any other people. You're killing your own offspring at a 5-time greater clip. Look at the Planned Parenthood institutions. They're in the black community. So you're destroying yourself. Margaret Sanger's whole purpose was to get rid of black people. Come on, you're doing the work. You're shooting yourself. You're killing yourself. You're doing the work for that Planned Parenthood. There's some other things we can say about Planned Parenthood. You know, it used to be called the Negro Project. That was the original name. Right. It wasn't called the White Project. It wasn't called the Hispanic Project. It wasn't called the Indian Project. It was called the Negro Project. Yeah. So, you know, it behooves everyone, like D.L. Hughley was saying, do some research. Oh my gosh. Do some research, black men. Do some research. It was called the Negro Project. They want to kill Negroes. Democrats have been owning black people from the time they bought them on the coast of Africa and brought them over here to America and put them on southern plantations. Now they're in Democrat cities, and all these Democrat cities are run by Democrats.
Well said. I call them Democrats. Yes. And I'm glad you brought up the great Martin Luther King, because they evoke his name later on, and we'll speak on that because they say this is our time. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. It's like, don't evoke those brothers, please, because Malcolm X warned us about you liberals as well. Yes, he did. All right, man. Ron, we are on a roll here, but I know you have a busy day ahead of you and a lot to do as we finish up this campaign run toward these victories, you know, to flipping these seats like we're going to do. The work you have been putting in has been phenomenal. I'm so grateful. So let's just do a couple more. I'm going to go to the economy because this is a funny one. They took the one strength that nobody can deny from Donald Trump, and they tried to flip it. Now, you know what they're saying now? That was Obama's economy. But let's play the clip. Hang on just a second.
We have Charles Phillips. Charles Phillips is a business leader also. He works closely with VP on the economic proposals. Why should black men not hold the Biden-Harris administration responsible for inflation? Why should that not be a real thing? You look like Obama. You know that, right? You do.
Yeah, I do. So first of all, I'm older than him. He looks like me.
Why shouldn't they be held responsible for inflation?
It's a fair question, and I think you have to put the Trump economy in context. That was the Obama economy he inherited. So I served on the Obama Economic Recovery Board during the financial crisis. He had to fix something, an economy that was tanking. He fixed it, handed it off to Trump. It was growing 2.4%, generating about 210,000 jobs a month. Trump had to do nothing but not screw it up and leave it alone. Right. That first 3 years, that kind of worked, and then COVID hit. COVID wasn't Trump's fault, it wasn't Biden's fault, but that was the beginning of inflation. What happened was we got all the stimulus checks, we all spent all that, but that meant that caused inflation because we're all buying in the grocery stores, couldn't go to restaurants, so we're buying the same goods. People stopped working because for the first time they could take off for a while. That raises labor costs. To get people off the bench to work, you got to pay them more money. And then other things happened. The Ukraine war, that makes oil prices go up. Biggest producer of grain in the world, Ukraine, grain prices go up. All this stuff is happening at once. But that last year, all that started under Trump. So what did he do? Did the stimulus checks, which made sense because you have to save people, people had to eat. But then it accelerated under Biden because it takes 3 or 4 years to work through the economy. That's already happened. That's behind us. What's happened now is inflation has come down. It was at 9% when he started. It's at 2.5% now. We're getting better. We just need to keep doing what we're doing now. That's exactly what VP Harris plans to do. Continue the plan that's under place right now.
Okay, thank you, man.
Thanks.
We have.
Well, once again, the Democrats You know, if you say the same thing over and over and over again, people will believe it because that's how learning is naturally done. Repetition. And so the Democrats are good at repeating the lie over and over and over again.
They are, because Barack said it too. So they all have a talking point.
Yes, and if you say it over and over again, people are going to believe it. They're going to take it for truth. When it comes to the economy, just simply overspending is going to create inflation. Just overspending. We see this Biden administration, they just overspent. They were sending checks to people that didn't need checks. They were giving checks to, I think the rappers were singing about it with the unemployment, how people even outside of California were receiving unemployment compensation, and they didn't even live in the state. Those are some more examples. We see what they're doing. For me, the number one thing is the energy. We're sitting on energy, which is a renewable source. Oil is renewed under the ground all the time. You just have to tap into it. So we're sitting on oil, energy, and we refuse. Joe Biden, first thing he did was close the pipeline down. Close our pipeline down when we can sell our energy, and then we can make revenue off that energy. All goods and services are going to go decrease. Everything takes a truck, a plane, a train, or a boat to get to you, or a car. All of those things run on energy. So when fuel costs and energy costs goes up, the goods of all services, the price of all products increases. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the price at the grocery store. We're seeing the price for our utilities. We're seeing the price for our gasoline and food. Everything is increasing. And that's why we have a surplus of energy, natural gas, oil under our feet. We should be exporting that and making revenue on that. It's just crazy. So what they're doing is, because of, quote, climate change, which they got people in fear about climate. Men can't change the weather. It is what it is. So it's a fear. They're using these fear tactics and controlling everything. Back to the energy. When it comes to energy, American energy is cleaner than any other energy you can find in the world. So they'll talk about climate change. And once again, Democrats, they want to pose these issues as if they're the compassionate one. No, they're not compassionate. They kill things. They destroy things. They're destroying our way of life. And so America has the cleanest energy. We got the best workers. We got the hardest workers. We take less time off than anyone. And that's why America is great and has been great. We got to teach our men to go to work. I never saw my father with his pants hanging down. I never saw my grandfather with his pants hanging down. We go to work. That's what a man does. He goes to work, and work 2 jobs if you have to, because it's honorable to work. The energy, we got to get back to having our own energy and stop buying it from all these other nations.
I love that. An actionable talking point, not just word salad. And that's actually what Trump has been proposing as well. He said it, liquid gold, right? Liquid gold. Right under our feet. Okay, we're going to start wrapping up here, man. I know we went a little bit over. The last few things they had to speak on, if you want to touch on, was immigration. Of course, their new thing is, we tried to pass a bill, but Donald Trump blocked it. Of course, they waited till their last year in office to do this, because everyone knows that it was record numbers of migrants coming across the border for the first 2 years of their term, and they did nothing about it. It's been suggested that maybe they did this to flood new voters into these areas. So nobody's dumb about that, but of course they're putting the spin on it. He'd rather run on a problem than fix a problem, is what she says, and that's their talking point, like you said, and they're going to keep repeating it. The other thing they got on was the LGBTQ community. And I think I gave you their talking point there, which was if we don't provide LGBTQ plus with benefits or rights, then it's going to impede on our rights. So it just seems that black people want to absorb everybody's struggle, because if we don't, then they're going to take our rights away. And that's another fear tactic. You want to touch on those here before we wrap up?
Well, James, that is a lot right there, man. Immigration, let's just start with immigration. Wow, what they're doing to Americans is it's a crime. It is absolutely a crime. We're talking about illegal immigration. No one's having a discussion about legal immigration. So Republicans are against illegal immigration, and
debate, right?
and these Democrats, they run across that stop sign every single time. They refuse to stop at illegal.
Mm-hmm.
Illegal should stop the whole conversation right there.
Yes,
they're running past that stop sign. We need to say illegal, illegal, illegal all the time. Mm-hmm. We're not talking about legal immigration. This is illegal immigration. There's nothing you can really do in America without having ID. You want to buy a home? ID. You want to buy a car? ID. You want to rent a hotel room? ID. You want to rent a car? ID. You want to get some utilities? ID. To vote, we should have ID.
Definitely.
These Democrats are ruthless. Like I said in the beginning, the Democrat Party of today is different than the Democrat Party back in the 50s and 60s. I tell people all the time, even John F. Kennedy would not be a Democrat today. And we see an example of it.
RFK.
Come on, we see an example of it. I was saying that before that happened. I used to say all the time, John F. Kennedy wouldn't be a Democrat today. Mm-hmm. It's because the party has changed. Mm-hmm. They're the party of the globalists, mm-hmm. the elitists. Mm-hmm. They don't love America because they can't do the things they want to do in America and take advantage of it. The reason they can't take advantage of America is because we have a constitution. Our constitution is unique. We have freedoms. We have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to assemble. We have a lot of freedoms that other people don't have. Mm-hmm. When it comes to black people and the platform of civil rights, black people built that platform of civil rights with Martin Luther King and the other leaders in that era. What the black community is really looking past, everybody's using us to get what they want. Right. So when we look at the LGBTQ, the homosexual agenda, they're using the civil rights movement as leverage to get the heavy lifting done 100. So they can get what they want. Homosexuals do not equate to a black person. They're not born like that. Right. You're a black person, you were born that way. Mm-hmm. You can't change that. You can be LGBTQ, any kind of gender you want, but you can change that. They don't have the same struggle we have. There wasn't no 400 years of slavery. No, they wasn't brought from another continent and put over here. They do not have the same experiences we have. It's amazing how they're trying to put all of our men in a skirt.
Right.
They're using this for their own political gain.
Yes.
It's just amazing what's going on. And we could talk about that all day. But I believe that's one of the main reasons why you see a lot of black men, especially, turning away from the Democrat Party.
Yeah.
They're already stealing the money, but we're going to work, we're raising our families, we love our women, we love our mothers, mm-hmm. we love our wives, we love our sisters, and we love our daughters. We're black men. Mm-hmm. So we love our women the same way any other ethnicity love their women. So why are you trying to push this homosexuality on us? Mm-hmm. We love women. We don't hate women.
Yes, indeed.
These men, these weak men, I'm not talking about physical strength, because you can look like Adonis and mm-hmm. Atlas mm-hmm. and be homosexual. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about weak men in the mind.
Yes.
Anybody knows a difference between a man and a woman. I told somebody, I said, listen, growing up in the black community in the ghetto, at 10 years old, nobody can tell you the difference between a man and a woman. You know the difference between a man and a woman. You playing hide and go seek and everything else. At 10 years old, no, you know, in the ghetto, are you kidding me? We know the difference between a man and a woman. So these weak men and these white liberals and progressives that's pushing this stuff, their agenda is to use black people. They're using us as a tool, as leverage to get what they want. And we need to stop being used by the LGBT community. These are weak men and they hate women.
Yes.
They hate women. They don't love women. Look, they get in their sports where they're swimming. That is not fair to women. It's not right to women. They want to talk about women's rights and talk about some abortion.
Right.
They let men violate women legally. If a man was to beat up a woman, we'll call the police. But they're letting men violate women legally, and the Democrat Party is the one pushing it.
Well said, brother. Well said. I could drop the mic right there. I don't even want to play no more of this stuff. I went on a rant on my YouTube page after I heard a lot of this stuff, and I said the same thing. Soft, and I said a lot more flagrant things that I won't say here. That's why I had to get in touch with you, Mr. Edwards, because I wanted to do it right. I wanted to articulate ourselves in a way that represented us the way we should be represented to the public, because sometimes this stuff gets me so upset that I can't help but to speak in tongues, you know, because it's just like, I cannot take this anymore. And you said it right. That's why a lot of black men are fed up and are over it.
Absolutely.
And you know what? I think we've been feeling this way, but there's so heavy of a, what can I call it? It's a burden where if you speak a certain way, people will call you an Uncle Tom, they will call you a sellout, they will call you a jigaboo, a coon, all these things. And I don't care anymore, Mr. Edwards. And that's why I'm so glad I met you.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes you need to see another black man that's standing in his truth and strength.
That's right.
And speaking from his heart and not speaking from the mind that's been infected with this liberal disease, you know.
Absolutely.
And all these people that got that Trump derangement syndrome,
That's
you know.
right.
Go ahead, I'm gonna let you close up because I think I've said all I want to say, and I'm done playing this clown show that BET put up there. I'm just so thankful for you. I wish you and your family all the best, and we're gonna be celebrating come election day, and I can't wait. So let me let you have the last 2 words.
Yes, and one thing I did want to comment on, and I'm going to give the mic back to you too, because it's your show. The whole thing about Uncle Tom and Sambo, we're going to clean up.
Yeah.
Uncle Tom was the good guy. It's the Sambos out there in that Democrat Party that was the bad guy. That was selling other black people out. It wasn't Uncle Tom, it was the Sambo. The black Sambo was the one selling the black people out. And we got these black Sambos in the Democrat Party acting like they're for us, and they're the ones, they're using them against us.
Yeah.
It's the Sambo that was against the blacks, not the Uncle Tom.
Yeah. And then you got, you know, the elite black bourgeoisie, you know. So when people aren't aware of what they're looking at on television, they just see someone that looks like them, and they feel that that represents them, and it feels good. We all know it feels good. We can't help it. Like when Barack Obama became president, I felt good, you know. And when you see people that look like you, it gives you a sense of pride, you know.
That's right.
And unfortunately, we need that so bad that they get to use these celebrities to fill us up, and then they just really empty in our vessel of our true values and our worth. So I think we've hit everything that I wanted to hit on. Is there anything you want to say to the people? I'm going to try to get this up before, like I want to get this up today, you know, so people can have all the information they need to make the best decision they can. I'll see you guys at the polls. Make sure you're there and support Ron Edwards. And anything else you want to add, Ron?
No, James, I just want to thank you again for having this show, this broadcast, and God bless you, and God bless America.
God bless, brother.
God bless you.